Hello, my name is Megan Shirley, and this is my Raising the Sun infographic. So for my major textual elements, I chose to put the characters towards the top because I felt like it was a good place to put them because they are important to understanding the rest of the infographic. So here you can see you have Mama, Walter, Benita, Ruth, and Travis. Mama is Walter and Benita's mother, and Walter is the protagonist of the play, so he's the main character. Benita is Mama's daughter and Walter's sister, and Ruth is Walter's wife and Travis's mother. Travis is Walter and Ruth's son. This play took place in Southside Chicago during the 1950s, and during this time, primarily African Americans inhabited. For my symbols, I chose to do Mama's plant, money, and eat your eggs. All of these three were present throughout the play, and they seem to be the most important. In the beginning of the play, the younger family is living in a small apartment in Southside Chicago, and they are waiting on a check for $10,000 to come to them. When this money comes, they all want to buy a house except Walter. He wants to spend the money and invest in others. Well, he does this and it does not work out, so the family has to overcome this struggle and eventually they move out of it. For my themes, I chose to use family, race, and racial discrimination. All three themes were very important throughout the play. The younger family had to stick together when struggling with racism, and they had to work together to achieve all of them. And at the bottom you see my dramatic term, flashback, which is a device in the narrative of a motion picture novel, which an event or scene takes place before the present time in the narrative, and it's inserted in chronological order. So for my visual elements, I chose to put the tree connected to the stylus. I thought it would be a good way to make the project come together. And for my color theme, I chose to do a black and white theme to show how important racial discrimination was throughout the play. And I chose yellow to represent the sun, and the green just tied into a lot of that. Thank you for listening. Well, Mama's plant kind of symbolized like how their dreams were and how they wanted to like look forward to it in life. Because when it was like it was kind of a dying plant, and at the end it was I guess. And then money, Walter really was really throughout the play, and he was the one who asked for money. And then eat your eggs. That was a phrase that Ruth used to tell Walter to stop worrying about his dreams and like focus on things.
We have a microphone now.
Rachel, come on up.
One thing I forgot to mention is that there was one element of the project they had to define and graphically represent a dramatic term. So it may not have been something that actually showed up in the play itself, but like for example, hers is props and the last one was flashback. So that's another element of the project.
Hello, I'm Rachel Eggers, and this is my Raising the Sun infographic.
Oh.
Nice, put it in your mouth. Put it in your mouth.
Hello, my name is Rachel Eggers, and this is my Raising the Sun infographic. The characters for Raising the Sun are Mama, Walter, Benita, Ruth, and Travis. The symbol I chose for Walter was a dollar sign because he was always talking about money and he wanted to invest in a liquor store. I chose a plant for Mama because it symbolized her hopes of her family coming from a dark place into a better one. I chose the graduation cap for Benita because she was all for education. She really wanted to make something of herself one day. I chose the baby bottle for Ruth because she was pregnant and she was always taking care of everyone in the house. I chose a quarter for Travis because in the book he asked Walter for a quarter. Even though they don't have money to spare, he still ends up giving it to him anyways. I represented all the characters through a hanger line with clothespins because it showed how Ruth was always cleaning and wanted everything to look nice. For social issues, I chose two houses, black and white, and a lightning bolt going between them to show how there was a lot of racism and there was clashing of both races. For my connections to today, I chose a hand breaking through the paper to represent how there was a lot of how Walter was put into a stereotype of just being the chauffeur instead of the boss, and how he wanted to break through throughout the book. And this is just like how in today's society people like to put people in stereotypes for many different reasons. And the setting of the book is in Southside Chicago in the 1950s, and I represented that through a road going up through Clybourne Park, which is the neighborhood that they move into, which is predominantly white, and it goes up to their house, which is their neighborhood. And
questions for Rachel?
Really good. How you did the hand thing. I have a question. What was the intersection between the street signs? Is there a reason you did one way and one way?
yeah, because it was sort of like how the whites thought that once the black family moves in, it'll take like all the more black families will move in, and then it'll kind of take over the town.
You guys gotta hold the mic closer to your mouths.
Hi, my name is Anthony Puffenberger, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. The topic I chose was antagonist, which is a person who is opposed to, struggles against, or competes with another. The setting for A Raisin in the Sun takes place in an apartment in South Chicago. At the end of the story, it takes place in a house at Clybourne Park. Although it doesn't happen much today, as it did back in like the 50s, it is still somewhat of an issue of like segregation and racism. Social or political issues back then were acts such as segregation and treating violence toward African Americans, and some of these acts still take place today. So the antagonist and the protagonist are Mr. Linder and Walter, and they are conflicting because of their two different values. Major themes in A Raisin in the Sun is don't treat people differently just because of their skin color, and with the hope that you can achieve anything. The plot of A Raisin in the Sun for antagonist is when Mr. Linder showed up representing the welcoming committee, but telling the family they can't move into Clybourne Park because of their skin color. Examples of symbolism in A Raisin in the Sun is the briefcase held by Mr. Linder, showing that he was prepared and serious to tell the younger family that they can't move into Clybourne Park because of their skin color. And some choices I made for like the backgrounds is red and black because that usually represents the opposite side of like good, which is that. And I chose arm wrestling because the two main characters are conflicting over their values and ideas. That was my project. Any questions?
Is
there any particular reason why you chose your specific like speech bubbles and stuff like that for the design?
In the movie we watched, it looked like Mr. Linder was more fancy, so I went for a more fancy type of text box.
Bryce.
Hi, my name is Bryce Herring, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. A Raisin in the Sun is a story about a poverty-stricken family and how they get along with their day-to-day struggles. To start off, I have my title up top, which I chose the white and black fence to show that moving into a suburban neighborhood where fences are pretty common, there are more white people than there were black. And the same thing with the title, where there are much more white people around them than black. I chose the sun to show a beacon of hope, and the skyline to show that African American people were getting overshadowed. For my plot and settings, I chose to have the U.S. and to show Chicago, and Southside Chicago was very important to the story, as if it wasn't for Southside Chicago, there probably wouldn't be poverty and a lot of housing problems, which were very prominent in African American. Next, I have the characters. Walter, who was a greedy person for money and wanted to change his lifestyle, and the father of Travis. Benitha, who was the younger of the two and had high aspirations of being a doctor. Ruth, who was Travis's mom and Walter's wife. Mama, who tried to keep the family together. And what I would say is the most important character, Travis, who basically held the whole family together. For my symbols, I have a check, a beer bottle, and Africa. The check is to symbolize hope for the family, for things to improve. The beer bottle for Walter drinking away his problems, and Africa as Benitha's escape from society, as she felt they did not treat her. Next, I have my social issues, which are racism, and racism was very common throughout the story, and half the African American person's hand is cut off as they were not equal at the time. Misogyny occurred a lot as well. And I had a pink equal sign to show that women were not treated equally in this book. And lastly, I had poverty, which was a main problem for Walter, as he wanted to be a much bigger person than he was, but was being held back by poverty. Finally, I have my word, which was dialogue and conversation between two or more characters in literary work. And this depicts the most important conversation between Mr. Lindner and Walter, confronting him on moving into the house. The most rewarding part was probably seeing it all come together, and definitely the hardest part was making it flow. That is my presentation. Thank you. Any questions?
So in the United States, can you explain to me what you were trying to do in that top right?
Oh, right. I did not explain that. So what I was showing up there was one of the main things that we did before was the poem Dream Deferred, and that was to show that Walter's dreams of being rich and having a much better lifestyle were deferred as in cancer.
Heather, come on up.
Hi, my name is Heather Chika, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. At the top, I have social and political issues, and the main one was racism, so I demonstrated it with a hand, and on the black side, you can see that there's 1.5 fingers, and on the white side, there's 2.5, so it shows like white people had almost more than black people and were respected more. And below that, I have my connections to today, and for that, I have 2 guns, because there's a lot of shootings going on where innocent black people get shot, or there's cases where they get convicted. And so it's Black Lives Matter, because that's also racism in this book. Below that, I have my setting, and it's taken in Southside Chicago. So I have a compass showing the South Side, and I have the city behind it. And Okay, so below here I have my characters, which are Ruth, Walter, Mama, Benita, and Travis. And can you slow down, please? So Ruth is Walter's wife and Travis's mother, and she is pregnant throughout the book. So for her symbol, I have a pacifier for the baby. Walter is Ruth's husband and Travis's father, and he gets a yin-yang symbol because in the book he had a light and dark side, and he tried to help out his family as much as he could, but it didn't work out the way he planned, so it kind of took over. For Mama, I have a for sale or sold sign because she used the money from the life insurance check to buy the new house. For Benita, I have Africa because she wanted to explore more of her heritage, and that's where it was from. For Travis, I have a clock showing 10 o'clock at night because that's when he got the couch to go to sleep, which just shows how bad the house was in the setting. And the hardest part for this project for me was myself because I was very critical, and also just my layout in general. And the most enjoyable part was seeing it all come together. And also, I chose to make some of the titles in sections yellow or orange because it made the more important points stand out. And it just added a nice touch to it with also the sun in the background, which is like the sunset, which resembles everything. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Are there any questions?
Did you make the scenery background and the characters in Photoshop, or did you make them in Illustrator?
Photoshop.
I haven't talked in Illustrator yet.
Leah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leo Doak. This is my Raised in the Sun infographic. As you can see up here, here are the characters at the very top, which includes Benita Younger, Ruth Younger, Walter Lee Younger, Lena Younger, Travis Younger, and Joseph Asiagai. And for my symbols, I included a plant to represent how Mama still cares for the plant and wants it to grow even though it is not in a good environment. Just like the family growing in their environment and Mama trying to provide for them. In my symbols, I also included a check, which represents a $10,000 life insurance check from Mr. Younger, who died. Then down here, I also included the Nigerian headdress, which represents Benita's wanting to find her true identity. Now, I included a sun because the title is A Raisin in the Sun. I thought that would be a really cool theme to include in this, where I kind of make it where like the outer edges were kind of like sun rays flowing through. And my word was Exodus, which means the final scene and exit of characters and chorus in a classical Greek play. And I kind of did like a person like walking off stage with lights on him. And the major themes would include following your dreams and also integrity. And I did a person following their dream as like a star, and I did a scale as integrity. And as my setting, it takes place in the south side of Chicago. Okay. Thank you all for listening. Any questions?
What made you choose Joseph as like another one of the main characters? Because I remember from the book he wasn't as common as the other ones.
Well, I kind of feel like he really benefits Benita with the whole entire theme. Sorry, I'm in youth. Sorry. He really benefited her because he really brought that African kind of true identity to her, and for that reason, I included him in this because I feel like he benefited all of the characters throughout the whole entire story. Hi, my name is Daniel Masterson, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. The story of Raisin in the Sun takes place in the 1950s in Southside Chicago. The story depicts the younger family, which consists of Mama, Walter, Ruth, Benitha, and Travis. Mama is the mother of Walter and Benitha. Ruth is the wife of Walter and the mother of Travis. In the Raisin in the Sun, there are many symbols. Two of the symbols are Mama's plant and money. Mama's plant symbolizes the younger family because they are both stuck in a spot where they cannot grow. In A Raisin in the Sun, the money represents the hope that the youngers can get out of their awful situation. A Raisin in the Sun also touches on some key social issues during the time. The youngers, being an African-American family in the 1950s, obviously know the hardships of racism. They especially come full force with that when Mr. Lindner offers to buy their house off of them because some of the white members in the neighborhood didn't want a black family moving in. The women in the story also have to deal with sexism a lot. When Benitha tells Walter that she wants to be a doctor, he says she should just become a nurse or get married like other women. So I chose diction, and so that's a style of speaking or writing as dependent upon choice of words. And so for the fonts in that, I did a typewriter font to represent the writing aspect, and I did Comic Sans in the speech bubble to represent speaking. I also put in the quotation marks because, as I said, diction is speaking or writing, and quotation marks fit in perfectly with that because they show dialogue and writing. The hardest part for me in this project was definitely using the pen tool a lot, because especially to do some of the character drawings, you have to be very precise. The biggest reward for me was when I got finished with the project. It was nice to see all the hard work during the weeks finally culminate in this final product. This has been my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
Is there any particular reason why you chose the color scheme for this with the blue and white?
Well, I had the blue in the background of the skyline for the title, and so I put the Raisin in the Sun in yellow as if it was like the sun. And so I wanted to add some color into my entire infographic, so I just put it on the headings and then carried it down a little bit.
Hi, my name is Isabella Sands, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So, the setting is in Southside Chicago, so I represented it with the skyline of Southside Chicago, and then I put a couch and represented like a living room for like the small apartment that they lived in. My word was comic relief, which is a relief in a serious situation, so like a funny part in a serious situation. And I represented that with Benitha dancing with like a Nigerian woman. And my characters were Mama, Walter, Travis, Ruth, and Benitha. The symbols that I had was a plant that represented Mama's hope for her family, a bottle of whiskey to represent Walter's dream to open a liquor store, Benitha's medical books to represent her dream to be a doctor, and a check to represent the family's key to success, which they wanted like lifetime goals for themselves. And I did a plot diagram, and then the connections to today is the meaning of family, which today we still have our family, no matter like what problem we have, we still always come through for each other. The thing of equality, that all of us should be treated equally, even though in A Raisin in the Sun, some of them weren't. And I did dream clouds to represent dreams because we all still have them today. And we will always have them no matter how big they are. And that's the end of my Raisin in the Sun infographic. Thank you.
Is there any reason you did it sideways instead?
sunset. So I did it horizontal to represent like a sunset because it will always come rise and fall.
Okay, hello, I'm Daniel Shakanowski, and this is my Raising the Sun dramatic. This is my Raising the Sun infographic. Okay, so the plot is a black family. The black family had a family member that recently died, so they're getting a check for his death, for the loss. The setting is Southside Chicago in the 1960s. That's where they live. Mama's plant is symbolic. It's a symbol because it represents her as like a character, like how she perseveres. So each character wants to like spend the money in a different way. So Mama wants to buy a house with it, and she's the head of the family. Walter is the father in the family, and he wants to invest in a liquor store, which is why the bottles are there. Benitha, who is Walter's sister, by the way, wants to go to college with it to become a doctor. And racism is a social issue in the play because it causes a lot of problems for the family. And this is my word, flat character. And the reason I put those raisins there, yes, those are raisins, because the title is a raisin in the sun, and I thought it'd be interesting if I put raisins in the sun. Yeah. So you pronounce it flat character, obvious already, and it's a noun, and it's defined as a minor character that doesn't change very much throughout the play, and is usually portrayed by one trait. For an example from the book is George Murchison. He's a flat character because he's portrayed as a rich and shallow person, like a rich and shallow black person. And those represent George Murchison. The money represents George Murchison because he's rich, and the books because all he cares about is knowledge. He's always talking about knowledge. My greatest difficulty was actually knowing what I was going to do. And the greatest reward was actually getting it done. Any questions?
Yeah. How come the characters have more of like an angled look to them?
Because they're leaning forward in an aggressive way.
Hello, my name is Ryan Campbell, and this is my A Raisin in the Sun infographic. So these are the characters throughout the play. Walter Younger, who is basically the protagonist of the story. Ruth, who is Walter's wife. Lena, who is the mother of Walter and Benitha. Benitha, who is Walter's sister. Travis, who is the son of Walter and Ruth. Joseph Asagai, who is sort of a colleague with Benitha. Carl Lindner, who is sort of the person who wants to stop the Youngers from moving in, who's basically in charge of the neighborhood. Bobo, who's one of the people, along with Walter, who are in with the scheme to invest in the liquor store. And Willie Harris, who's also along with them to invest in the liquor store. The setting is in 1960s South Side Chicago and basically takes place in the Youngers' apartment. The plot is that Walter wants to invest in the liquor store, but his family is telling him no. And so the life insurance money from the death of Walter's father comes in for $10,000. Mama decides to use that money to buy a house, and she decides that she's going to trust Walter to use that money, the remaining money, wisely. And the man who's basically in charge of the neighborhood, Mr. Lindner, comes in and tries to bribe them not to move into the new neighborhood. And turns out that Walter had used that money to invest in the liquor store. And Bobo comes to tell him that turns out Willie Harris had swindled him and he left town with all the money. And despite losing that, Walter still doesn't give in to Mr. Lindner's bribe, and they proceed to move into the new neighborhood. Okay. Some of the major themes throughout the play are dreams on how Walter dreams to have money to provide for his family. Benitha dreams to be a doctor. Segregation because Mr. Lindner wants to stop the Youngers, a black family, from moving into the neighborhood, which is an all-white neighborhood. And family, because despite the hardships that the Youngers go through, they still stick together, they still move on with each other. Some of the social issues is how Mr. Lindner wants to try and bribe the Younger family from moving in solely on their skin color. And then my word, which is motivation, thoughts or desires that drives someone to basically accomplish something. And Walter was motivated to get money for his family, so he was going to invest in the liquor store. The reason that I organized it in this way is so when I go through the plot points, you know who the characters are, what they look like, and the setting, so that way when Mama decides to buy the house, you understand specifically why she decided to. The color scheme was because of the earlier word. Blue is sort of a color associated with motivation, and green because Walter was motivated to get money, which is colored green. Okay, and that was my Raisin in the Sun infographic. Thank you for your attention. Any questions? Yes.
So could you explain why the cars are blown up?
Huh? Because the car represents plot, and that fuel tank is supposed to, I know it's hard to see, but it says motivation, how motivation is sort of the driving force for story.
Hi, my name is Diana Jardina, and this is my Raisin Sun infographic project.
And to start off, the play took place in Southside Chicago, and I have a tree coming out from the city with all the characters' names on it. And I have the Southside Chicago and a tree coming out from it, and all the characters on the tree. Okay, so major themes in the play were dreams, money, and racism. There's a lot of conflicting dreams between the characters. They had a lot of financial problems, and racism was a big problem. And plot, I have the plot inside a house symbolizing their new, bigger house once they move out of the apartment. And I have these symbols to represent, like, in the story. So the plant symbolizes Mama's dream to move out and get her garden in a new home. And then the stethoscope is Benita's dream. She wants to become a doctor. And the whiskey represents Walter and how he wants to open up a liquor store. And the money symbolizes they're depending on like a $10,000 financial check. And then that's my term and foreshadowing, and I did a crystal ball because it's like seeing the future, and that was my infographic project. Any questions? Because I did that. Yes, sorry. I did my term first, and I thought like it would look magical, like the blue and the purple. So I just kept that throughout, so it didn't look too weird, like going to that project. Because I make everything flip.
My name is Isabella Anderson, and this is my infographic for the play Raisin in the Sun. So at the top, you'll see 3 houses, and what I wanted to represent here was the segregation that the Younger family endured when they moved in to Clybourne Park, since they'd be the only African-American family amongst all whites. This is my character descriptions, and I wanted to keep it simple, so that's just why I went with a simple family tree. And I chose the gray color behind the characters' heads because it is gray and they look like clouds to go with my theme of a sky that I have throughout the whole project. Next, I have my major themes. A major theme throughout the story was family, and some decisions I made when I was doing the characters is I decided to go with a green shirt for Walter since his character type is more dull, and for Benita, I did a bright color that kind of pops since she's very enthusiastic and outgoing. As you move down, you'll see my symbols, and an important symbol throughout the story was the plant, which represents Mama's dream for the family and how she keeps it alive through the hard times. The next part is just my setting, which is Southside Chicago, and then finally you get to my literary term, which was staging, and I chose the font for staging because I thought it looked like the stage lights you'd see when you go into a theater, and the handwriting font for the rest of it because I wanted this section to look like someone's draft they have for planning out the stage. That was my project. Do you have any questions?
You said you decided to go with the sky theme representing one week.
Well, I originally just had a sun at the top because it's like a raisin in the sun, and then I decided I wanted to carry it out, the rays through the whole thing, so.
Daisy Chino, and this is my infographic on Raisin in the Sun. For the title page, I did a stage with the red curtain and the skyline of Chicago. For the second section, I did about the story. I did the setting, the summary, the themes, and the social issues. I didn't want a lot of text in it, so I put in the graphic to show each one. For the setting, it was a small apartment, and I just put a brief summary. For the themes, I just put standing up for yourself, racism, and dreams. For social issues, I did gender, stereotypes, and money. The next section was my dramatic term, which was protagonist. I just have the information on it. For the background of this, I did just the younger apartment, and I numbered all of them to symbolize each character. You can see each characters on the next section, and I numbered them. And Walter is in the middle because he's the main protagonist as well. And I just did a stage theme, so it would all flow. I had a lot of problems when I was doing this because I didn't manage my time well. And I had a lot of problems with my pen tool. That was the end of my infographic. Thank you for listening. Any questions? I wanted to do the stage theme. So. Good morning, everybody. My name is Katie Hall, and today I'm going to be presenting to you my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So the first thing you see on my infographic is my title page. On my title page, I really wanted to represent a wall and the younger's apartment. So I did this by incorporating some things that you'd see in a family home, as well as a bookshelf with some different book titles correlating to some ideas in the book, and my title is also on the book right there. So moving into my character section, I decided to display it on a family tree. I also included a description of each character next to them, and they're all connected with lines. So this is going to move into my dramatic term section. So my dramatic term was complication, which is also an intensification of conflict in a play. I decided to creatively represent this on a check, since a check is one of the main elements in the play. Under this, I have the example, followed by the plant. So this is going to move into my symbol section. In my symbol section, I included 3 very important symbols to the story, which includes Benita's struggle to find herself, eggs, and beer, which was Walter's way of kind of dealing with his life problems. So following this section, we're going to lead into my setting section. So I wanted to include the Chicago skyline in 1959 to kind of set the time period and also the setting. And then for Southside Chicago, I kind of went with a graffiti theme to kind of connect to the main idea. And there's also a graphic of their apartment. My social issues section focuses on 3 main social issues that are very prominent in the play. And I chose feminism, racism, and inequality. So my last section is my connections to today section. And this section kind of incorporates the ideas of how A Raisin in the Sun is still relevant today and can all teach us a little something. So my biggest problem in this, like my biggest challenge, was trying to get everything to come together and coming with new, unique ideas that I really thought would be interesting to present. And I think my biggest accomplishment during this project was being able to proudly present this in front of you guys, because I'm very proud of my work and all the hard work that I completed during this project. So thank you for attending my presentation. Are there any questions? So I chose magnifying glasses, kind of going with all of my text boxes because I thought it would kind of bring it into the idea of this is analyzing this graphic. So I used the text box for that.
Hi, my name is Braden Maxwell, and welcome to my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So I started with the dramatic term. Mine was tragic flaw, and it's a noun, and it's the character defect that causes the downfall of the protagonist. So for Walter, I said that it was his greed, and in this, you can see the money outside the window, and he's so close to being able to get all that money, his investment in the liquor store, but the window pane is representing Mama, his mom, who's stopping him from investing in the liquor store, which he feels is stopping him from getting all the money that he thinks he should have. I also put Ruth at the stove on the wall because in this there's a lot of sexism and misogyny, so I thought putting a woman cooking would probably represent that pretty well. Alright, so in here I had a plot because if you saw up there, Benita was on the couch reading. She's like a scholar, she wants to become a doctor as you heard before. So the plot of this, it basically follows Walter's struggle to, like Heather said, a yin-yang, try and fight with himself and try and do good, but he's also doing bad at the same time, so it follows his struggle through that. These were the main characters, the younger family. We've got Ruth, Mama, Benita, Travis, and Walter. Travis was the main character. He was fighting with himself. Ruth was his wife, who was not really happy to be with him. Mama, he saw as his block, the one who was stopping him from following his dreams. Benita, the scholar, and Travis, the kid who's having to suffer through this. This is the social aspect piece. So as you can see, the white man, who's Mr. Lindner, is wealthy, he's got power, he's great, and he's bigger. He's bigger in the social aspect than the black man, Walter, who's just labeled with poverty. And the setting is in Chicago, Illinois, so I put a map of Illinois, and I put their family to show that's where they were. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Is there any reason why like the background of each like individual section is so layered?
It's so
like so layered, like there's like a clear like line.
Oh, okay. The reason I did that was to show the blocks in society that existed back then between different races and genders.
I was about to ask him.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Jacob, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So first things first, as you can see here on the left, you start off with a black gradient and it goes to white throughout the whole thing. I did this because that's how the story was kind of like made throughout it. And so at the beginning, the family was arguing, they were not agreeing with anything, it was a very rough time for them. And as the story went on, it got lighter, happier, they started agreeing and getting along more, they became a family unit. Okay. So I decided to do some billboards to represent a city, which is Southside Chicago at the bottom. My word is comedy, which is a dramatic work in which a central motive is a triumph over adverse circumstance, resulting in a successful or happy conclusion. Up top, I decided to do some clouds to represent my sun and the sky on the other side of the infographic. Walter is the father of Travis and the head of the family. I put a beer bottle because his dream was to invest in a liquor store. Travis is the son of Walter and Ruth. I put the money symbol because before school one day, he needed money, and even though they didn't have it, Walter did. Ruth is the mother of Travis and the wife of Walter. I put a baby bottle because she was nurturing the family and pretty much took charge. Benita is the daughter of Mama and the sister of Walter. I put a stethoscope because her dream was to go to medical school. Mama is the mother of Walter and Benita. I put a plant because that represented the growth of the family. I put a sun to represent, well, of course, raising in the sun. I put the rays to kind of tie it all together. This is, oh yeah, can you please go back to the name? This is their old apartment, and so on the other side, my city kind of acted as a timeline. So as they went on, I put the events that happened in the plot, and on the other side is their new house. On the second billboard, that is my social and political issue, which is racism. I did this by having two hands create a heart. Before the billboard, I put a stop sign to really signify how big of a problem it is and to stop it. That is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Could you explain the stop sign in between the two billboards?
Yes. So I put a stop sign to signify how big of racism, how big of a problem it is. So, and saying that we really need to stop it because that's a big problem.
Hello everyone. I'm Charlie Reeder, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. As you can see, there are 5 major characters in the story who are Walter, Lee, Lena or Mama, Travis, Ruth, and Benita. They all change the plot of the story. My dramatic term was climax, which is the turning point or major point of a story. And the major point or climax of Raisin in the Sun was when Willie Harris ran off with their $10,000. And that's why the money is breaking apart. And a representation of climax in a movie would be like a sword fight, so that's why the swordsman is breaking up the money. And we have the plot. The symbols of the book were the younger's couch and Mama's plant. Mama's plant showed that she would never give up on the hard times. It was a bad and dead plant, but she would continue to fight through it, and it got better throughout the book. And the younger's couch showed how little their wealth was, as Travis had to sleep on the couch and they couldn't afford a bed for him. The connection from 1959 to today is racism. Back in the late 50s, we used to see civil rights movement, and it showed in the book when the youngers couldn't buy their house, Mr. Linder denied them for it. And it still shows today, and you still see protests like you did back in the 50s. Major creative decisions that I made in the infographic were having the setting and the characters at the top of the infographic to give you a simple idea of what the book was about before going into great detail. And I also made the climax font bold to show that that was the climax. And the character, the name of the character is a different font to give you who the character was instead of their description. And the background represents a lighter green to show that the movie in the book went all around money, and that's what it was about. Thank you for attending, and any questions?
At the very bottom, you had a Black Lives Matter and a whites only. Why is wouldn't it make more sense to have the whites only sign be white?
Well, if it was white, it probably wouldn't have come out as better, and I thought it would be better to show the yellow and black. Easier comparison to look at.
All right.
Is this the right version?
So hi, my name is Sarah, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So here we have Walter, one of the main characters, holding a newspaper, and we have a picture of the whole family. And then on the other side we have a house for sale ad to represent the house that they bought. And then for symbols, there's a plant to represent Mama because she tried to keep it going. And then we have Benitha dancing in her Nigerian outfit that Osaka gave her. And then also if you scroll to the right more, we have a hand holding out a check to represent the check that they had when they were getting from the death of Mama's husband. So up above we have a picture represented as a picture frame, the Deus Ex Machina, which is a intervention that helps solve a problem. It's a solution, and when back in Greek times, it was often a physical or a machine that was used for representing gods. But in the play, they had the check that was going to save them. So for the biggest challenge for me was finding a way to visually represent everything. And but the most rewarding was when I was able to fit it in.
Any questions?
So with that thing above the guy reading the newspaper, what exactly is happening in that picture in the top left?
It's a Greek, from Greek times when they would have the thing, and the guy is being raised up by the machine to show that he is a god or has divine power.
Okay, my name is Kyron Harris, and this is my Reason in the Sun infographic. Scrolling to the bottom, that's where I have my title. So that's a mess up. I meant to say major theme, but one of the major themes is to dream on, and I represented this by Walter. He's dreaming of the house that they're going to get, that Mama bought. And scroll up. These are my characters. I tied them in with the symbols. So the first one I have is Benitha. She is proud of her African culture and let's embrace it. At the beginning of the story, you can tell that her hair is straight, and by the end of the book, it's like an afro. right next to her, there's a stethoscope because she wants to be a doctor, which in that time and age was not really, or it was frowned upon by many people. And right below it is Walter. One of his dreams is the liquor store, which shows his greed for money because most of the time in the book he's thinking about money. And right next to it says Jock Daniels, because I didn't want to put Jack Daniels. But by the end of the story, Walter, he does turn into a man, and right underneath him is their mom, Lena, aka Mama. She represents hope and just wants the best for her family. She has a trowel, I think that's how you pronounce it, right next to her to show that her love for gardening as she cared for the plant. And she cares for the plant and the garden. It's just like one of her dreams. And she shows that through taking care of her family. Oh, my word at the top. No, put it very top. Oh wait, the setting. I'm sorry. The setting is in Southside Chicago, and I showed this by having their table and their couch, and then the back is Ruth's ironing board and her iron, because that's what she did for a living. And then the word at the top. I did fourth wall. It's an imaginary wall between the actors and the audience. It can be broken if I were to engage you guys, ask a question, and you guys help me. And I represented that by a wall being broken open. This is my, oh wait. The problem, or one of the struggles I've had with this is this wall. This wall is really annoying. And my favorite part would probably be, coming up here and presenting to y'all. Thank you for your attention. This has been my infographic project. Any questions? Three of them. You first. Yeah.
Okay, so the circle around the setting, do you mind explaining why it was girls' kids?
Yeah, I put the circle around it because I was originally going to do the whole room, but I felt like that would look weird to have a big square right in the middle of it. So I decided to just look like it's inside of the circle, or to look like it's inside of the circle. Anybody else? I saw some back there. One only? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't answer
All right. So, hello, my name is Aaron Howard, and this is my Raisin in the Sun infographic. So, to start out, some of the major elements I have. So, I have my stage directions, which is my theatrical term and definition. I have my plot, connections to today, social and political issues, and symbols. Scrolling back up to the top, to start off with stage directions for my theatrical term. They are instructions written into a play script indicating stage actions or the movement of actors. So an example from the book is that Mama and Ruth look up with the same expression. It's not meant to be read, it just shows the actors what to do. So to go down to my plot, I'm sure you all have been amply briefed on the plot, so I'm not going to go over that too much. But I chose stairs to represent kind of the apartment and house look. For my connections to today, I chose moving, because people still move around a lot and it still influences people's lives. I chose a check because that's what rescued the youngers out of poverty, and poverty is still a thing today. I also chose I don't quite know what you call these, the gender symbols, I guess, because gender is still an issue that's being discussed and transformed today. So for my social and political issues, I have a scale here that's unbalanced, because in the book, obviously, racism was more heavily weighted towards the white people. They were higher elevated. The black housing was more expensive, which is why they couldn't afford a bigger house. Down at my symbols, I have
their new house, which symbolize hope and a new life from the old times that the Youngers had, and Mama's Plant, which, if you haven't read a book, is kind of a small thing, but it has a big meaning that it symbolizes toughness and perseverance through tough times. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Do I have any questions? Yes? Yes?
Oh, so where did you get the idea of using the ripped paper across the whole thing?
So, I started off with my word, and I noticed my title's not on there. That's nice. Oh no, there it is. Anyway, so I started off. Sorry, I'm just tired. So I started off with my theatrical term, and I wanted it to look almost. I don't even know how I got the idea. It just kind of popped into my head one day that I wanted to make it look like it was ripped out of a book, with the definition on there, and I also put the typewriter font to keep in theme with the old-fashioned 50s look. Any more questions? Yes, Ryan?
Why is one of the pieces of paper black?
That is not something I'd like to discuss right now, but that may or may not be because I didn't finish completely, so I'm just going to hide that fact. Any other questions? What's that? Okay, 5.
Just for the record, when you turn in your assignment on time, I don't have to download it in the middle of the presentation. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you for forwarding my shame onto the audience. That makes this easy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mason Schaefer, and this is my Raisin in the Sun digital media project. So, for my project, I wanted to start off very simply with the setting and the skyline of Chicago to show just where we are, to give the viewer a basic understanding of how the whole infographic is going to go, as well as start with my color scheme, which is going to be, I know you can't see it, but it's green, yellow, and blue. And the colors themselves, I chose to represent certain things within the infographic, which I'll explain in a minute, but I already said it already, but that's the skyline of Chicago, and it's to represent where they are, sort of where the story takes place. And down we have my symbolism, and I symbolize all the characters, where the plant symbolizes Mama as she helps it to grow and survive in an environment where it should be very hard, and she persists just like the plant persists. And the money symbolizes Walter and his desire to have a better life for himself and his family, because he always feels that he's trapped on a prejudice level where he can never rise above. The couch symbolizes Travis, where he has to sleep every night because there's no room in the Younger's small apartment. And the dress symbolizes Benitha and her want to go to Ethiopia and free herself and to escape the trap that she lives in, and to just get away from it all. And the pacifier symbolizes Ruth, who wants to have a better future for her family, but also, since she's pregnant, she wants to have a better life for her child, and for that child to come into the world in a better place instead of a rundown and musty old apartment in the South Side. And for the social connection, I said that
Benitha really wants to graduate as a doctor in college, but it's very hard for her being black, especially as a female in the 50s, and that's definitely very, very important as part of the story progresses and shows her struggle, and we never see the end, but I hope she succeeded. And I think one of the biggest themes of the entire story is racism, and the racism factor plays a very big role as all of the characters try to struggle and to survive and rise up and try to live in a white neighborhood where they will have all these things against them, but they will try to persist and live above that. And at the bottom, I've got my dramatic term, my dynamic character, Walter, over there, who struggles with a lot of inner turmoil and trying to help his family, but also himself and sort of his, well, greed, I would say, towards just trying to get all the money from the check that they earn to put it towards the liquor store to help himself, but his family as well. And as he goes throughout the play, he's very characterized, very uniquely, I think, because of all of his inner struggles, which separates him from the rest of the younger family. And for my color scheme, I chose the green, yellow, and the blue mainly in blocks because it allowed me to work on all the colors and portray the symbols and everything very easily, and I just wanted to have that to like be able to set everything up very, very well. And I think that my biggest challenge here was just scaling everything to the right time, because I like to spend a lot of time on very small details, and I think that's a flaw that I have. Also, I'm not good with making hands in vector images. They're very, very hard. If anybody can teach me how to do those, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I forgot to turn off the background image. And I, God, never mind. But my best thing about this that I really appreciated doing was just being able to explore with the vector images. I love Photoshop, and I love digital media, and I'm very happy that I'm in something like this where I can explore things like this and that I can learn and progress, and I love it. I love it to death. All right, thank you all for listening to my digital media presentation.
What made you choose to represent the characters using like a symbolic piece rather than using a picture?
Because I felt that the symbols, instead of using a picture, like you could feel more of the characters themselves and see more things about them instead of just an image, which reflects the outward. These more reflect the inward wants and desires of the character. Yeah, Aaron?
So why did you organize everything in kind of big blocks?
Well, I felt that it helped me a lot with organization, and it helped me keep everything in scale and everything orderly, as well as just helping to define where everything was supposed to be.
All right, so thank you guys obviously for coming. I wanted to open up the...
Sam did not go. Sam has not presented. Our bad.
Mr. Director, she turned hers in on time, that's my bad.
Her bad. While we're waiting for that to download, what I was going to say was I wanted the junior and senior classes to think about some feedback and some, I guess, wise words, especially as a senior, just lead the program based on what you see here and then your own experiences moving forward. So we'd love to hear from you guys since this is the end of the year and they'll be moving on to next year and you guys will be sadly going by that. So we'd love to hear.
Hello everybody, my name is Sam Valentoni and this is my A Raisin in the Sun infographic. So I decided to do the title in the middle for the window part to represent new beginnings for the family since they moved out of their old house and moved into a new one. And if you go to the top, I decided to do the connections to today in a newspaper article because things of racism still go on today and you see a lot of that stuff in the newspaper. And my literary term was scene, and I decided to do that in a stage area because this is a play and kind of represents it well. This is my theme for Walter. Walter's theme is he wants to open up a liquor store with the life insurance check, but Mama has other plans. This is the setting of the story, which is Southside Chicago, and I decided to use a graffiti font because in Southside Chicago there is a lot of graffiti. And those are the characters sitting on the windowsill. We have Mama, Walter, Ruth, Benitha, and Travis. And right under that, you see I have 4 symbols. And on the symbol to the left is Benitha's hair, which in the beginning of the story, Benitha's hair was straight. And she decided to symbolize her African roots and just leave it curly. And next is Mama's plant, which symbolizes her dream of having her own house and her garden in the back. And the baby toy represents Ruth's unexpected pregnancy. And lastly, we have the beer bottle that symbolizes 2 things, which one, that Walter wants to own a liquor store, and he likes to drink a lot. And that is my A Raisin in the Sun infographic project. Do you have any questions?
Why did you do plates on a windowsill to represent?
Well, they're supposed to be picture frames. I decided to do that since they are moving into a new house and they are really close together at the end of the story, and I thought I would represent that well with picture frames all together as a family.
That is everyone. Okay. So again, if any of the upperclassmen have any sort of words of advice or wisdom to pass along to the freshmen here, that would be a good way to end, I think.
All right. So one of the big problems that I noticed throughout a decent amount of things, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I don't have my glasses. So just always be looking about color placement. Dark on dark is very hard to see. It might make sense, you know, logically, but visually it won't translate. So just always be looking out for that, and always, you know, pick a font that's easy to read, and don't put it too small to the point where the pixels are going to make it look terrible and you can't read it. So just always be looking out for visual things like that.
I'm gonna pass it this way. Alright, another problem I noticed was like you guys just kept on apologizing a lot, and if you're doing a presentation, don't apologize. Just keep going through it, because like we don't know if it's a mistake until you make it a mistake.
So I do have my glasses, and I agree with Billy that, things are a little hard to read. I know some of you guys, like you said, they were like blue, and then you had black, and then you also had white there, so if you know the white looks good, just stick with the white. And then some things I noticed, you had a lot of like spelling errors, and like things weren't capitalized, or you had text boxes that weren't, like the words inside the text box
weren't evenly spaced, so it was just a little bit distracting. And then some of you used a lot of the same elements. I know, like, you're all doing the same book, but there were things I saw repeated. Like, some of the things about the symbols for the characters were repeated, and they were like the exact same, so you got them from the same place. So just be careful about that.
Yeah, connections is spelled with 2 N's.
And
Lord have mercy.
Africa is capitalized, so please capitalize your nouns and words.
I'd like to hear some of the things that you were surprised about that you may not have done if you were a freshman in digital.
Alright, so I really liked how all of the artwork was done. Like, I've been in digital media for 3 years now, and I don't know if I could do some of the stuff that you guys did. So.
Okay, so I thought you guys did really good. Me as a freshman, I wasn't even in this class or anything like that, but I definitely could not present like you guys. I was like, I'm still a little, I don't know, right now I'm like breathing pretty heavy. I don't know what it is, but you guys are really good. You weren't that nervous, that I could tell, and I could get what you were saying, so you know, that was good.
You're all good, though.
Thank you.
All right, first off, I want to say, like, everybody did a good job, especially as a freshman. Relax, all right? I only have one comment to share. But you all did very good presenting as a freshman. Like, as a freshman, I was like a scrawny little kid, and I was terrified of doing anything with people. So you guys did a good job, and especially with Photoshop. I hate Photoshop. So, like, don't you guys are really good, more advanced than probably most of us are in it. And just appreciate over the next 4 years that you guys get to work with like the best group of teachers in the school, because nobody else gets to do it.
All right, I agree with Daniel. As freshmen, you guys did a really good job of presenting, but I would give you guys some couple points as well. One, don't wing it, because we can tell if you're completely winging it. You guys pause a lot, and then you like kind of stutter and you kind of look around for help, and that's a big giveaway. But also don't have a script in mind, because if you have a script in mind, you go word for word, and all of a sudden you mess up and you pause and it gets really awkward there. So instead of having a script, have a plan, just like a plan. So like, I'm gonna focus on these points, but don't have a script in mind, so you won't pause when you make a mistake.
Caroline, last one.
Do I have to use this?
Yes.
Okay. I think you guys did really well with presenting, especially because you guys are freshmen and you've never done it before. The only thing I would say is that try not to look at the screen as much, because it kind of looked like you guys were using it to help you through your presentation. It's fine if you glance over to point at something or something like that, but try not to read off the screen as much. But otherwise, you guys did really, really well, and I'm extremely impressed with your Photoshop skills, because yeah, we can't do that. So good job.
I don't need a microphone. A lot of sentiments and stuff that they said. So realize, like Mr. Williams pointed out, that this is the first time we've had this culmination with TED where we really had the Freshman Academy involved with kind of the steps that you guys will take along the lines when you get to be the sophomore, junior, and senior class. So first of all, I think it's a true testament to Mr. Williams and Ms. Council in terms of what you guys provided to us today, in terms of the knowledge and information of the book, the creative ideas that you saw, and then obviously the abilities that you guys have in Photoshop are already, like they said, extremely impressive. We haven't had a freshman group that's been able to do this kind of stuff that we wanted to envision with a freshman class until you guys. So that's a great testimony to you guys in terms of your effort, your hard work. The other part I'll put in there, what none of these people in the room saw, except for a couple of us, was what you guys that were in my room after school for hours and hours over the past few days. That shows the dedication of what you guys have to what you're doing, how proud you are of the work that you're showcasing, the ability to put that emphasis into that pride of what you're doing says a lot. And these guys will all tell you that will triple down when you get involved in all the other stuff that we do here with our other projects that we do, like the thing when you guys came through the police station the other day with these guys, like all the stuff that these kids do for Skills USA that you guys will get involved in when you guys go along, and all the other things that we do here as a school, that a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes that people don't know. So that work ethic and dedication is going to serve you well, so I appreciate that. It's good to see that so early on. In terms of where you guys are going from here, you guys have already set the bar pretty good here now for the next group of freshmen that comes behind you, and realize you've got to follow along and top everybody that was in front of you now. Okay, so that's the thing, kind of the next thing to think about is where you guys go from here. So I know we're very excited from the things that we have seen as you guys come to us next year. Be ready for a lot of new fun and things and challenges, but I think you guys have a bright future. You guys did a great job today. So.
With that, we'll wrap it up. Good job, baby geniuses.